Hello, guys, and welcome to Cricket Caviar. Sri Lanka has lost a test series. They just got whitewashed at home. And this is what the worrying signs are that Dhananjaya de Silva is actually talking about whether Sri Lanka should continue playing test matches on turning wickets in Sri Lanka. And they have had too many test matches in golf. The surface keeps getting drier and drier, and the ball turns a lot. This neutralizes the advantage that a skilled Prabhat Jasuria or a Nishan Paris or a any other spinner would have over an inexperienced spinner from Australians squad. I'm not taking any credit away from Mathew Kuhnemann, who just bowled brilliantly. He had bowled a brilliant spell in Indore in India to give Australia a win. He had taken 5 for 16. He has taken 5 for 63 here in Galle. And he has outbowled Prabhat Jasuria. He has outbowled Nishan Perez to some extent. He has outbowled Jeffrey Mandese, the leg spinner. It's been amazing. I mean, if you see the scores on the first day, I was like watching this test series and I thought, wow, Australia are really dominating. They are finishing the day with 350 for three. Next day, they are 500 for three, and the partnership between Usman Khawaja and Steven Smith just goes on and on. And on the other hand, you are seeing, you wonder, you think that this is a flat version of a goal pitch, and Sri Lanka will also pile up the runs. But you see, next day Sri Lanka are, 50 for three, and there you have the difference, like 500 for three and 50 for three. And Todd Murphy was not even threatening, to be honest. It was just Mathew Kuhnemann and Nathan Lyon bowling. You had some good spells from Mitchell Stark, who was being rested and used as a fast bowler in these conditions. He had a good series in 2016 also, where Australia were whitewashed. They lost 3-0, and he was used beautifully here. But what I'm most disappointed about is Sri Lanka's lack of fight here, because I really had a lot of expectations. Dimuth Karunaratne, an experienced batter, the batsman I respect a lot. He scored hundreds in tough conditions versus Ashwin and Jadeja two times, I think once in Sri Lanka, once in India. He's been their de facto leader before Dhananjaya de Silva took over the captaincy. So I expected a lot from him, but getting out to Todd Murphy, leaving the ball, I mean, that just called curtains on his journey. He's had a terrible, terrible phase in the last 2 to 3 years, and he needed to make that retirement call, which he has done. He's been very unselfish. Yes, he did play 100 test matches, but yes, he needed to make that retirement call. Probably you'll expect someone like an Angelo Matthews to also do that soon. Dinesh Chandimal, he's been playing phenomenally. So I don't know whether he comes in that same category. But there is a transition that is looming in Sri Lankan cricket with a lot of these players who are aged 36 and above, like Dinesh Chandimal, Angelo Matthews, and of course Dimuth Karunaratne has retired. So we'll have to see how it goes for the next generation of Sri Lankan cricket. But to be honest, also what happened to Jayasuriya, is there a difference being an interim coach and a permanent coach? Because when he was an interim coach, he looked much more fiery and competitive. And I'm shocked that the Sri Lankan batsman absolutely collapsed. There was not even a single hundred from Sri Lanka in this series. In the first innings itself, Australia scored three hundreds. If you see, there are 400s because one of them is a double hundred. Usman Khwaja has scored a double hundred. Then you have Steven Smith scoring 140. You have Josh Inglis on his debut scoring 100. And none of the Sri Lankan batters could actually convert, anything there. And they lost by an innings and 242 runs. Wow, man. I mean, that's a big, big margin to lose at home. And the pitch was not even turning. I mean, I was watching the match, the pitch was okayish. And Steven Smith explained how they came up with a plan. They prepared in Dubai. They came up with a plan where Usman Khwaja, Alex Carey, and Josh Inglis, they will keep on sweeping. And the other guys like Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne, they will be using their feet. Then you'll have Travis Head, who will be using more of the crease. He'll go to the back foot. So everyone had a different strategy, and they actually planned this to thwart this attack. They had studied Prabhat Jasurya's pace very well, and they used all these different methodologies to counter the Sri Lankan spin attack, which was fantastic. I mean, but what I didn't expect was I expected Sri Lanka to have some fight back. I only saw some fight from Dinesh Chandimal and Kusal Mendis, and of course there was a one innings from Angelo Matthews, but again no hundreds, and there were some headless shots, especially what was Dhananjaya de Silva, one of the most reliable batsmen of Sri Lankan cricket apart from Kamindu Mendis. What was he doing facing up to Mathew Kuhnemann? Was he trying to take him on to disturb his line? Because certainly getting out stumped in the first innings, getting out stumped in the second innings of the first test, and I'm not even come to the second test now. That's a different story. I mean, with Travis Head taking Kamindu Mendes, Bew Webster bowling off spin. I mean, that's different level of embarrassment. And I'll tell you, like Alex Carey, one of the poorest players of spin, he got embarrassed in Sri Lanka last time playing sweep, reverse sweep, and he got embarrassed in India playing sweep, reverse sweep. If he comes and scores a 150, not even a 100, I can understand he can make a fluke 100 by sweeping, reverse sweeping, and everything going his way. But he makes a 150. He makes a partnership of 259 runs with Steve Smith. I mean, that really adds insult to the injury. Like one of the writers, Andrew Fidel Fernando, actually perfectly spoke. It looked like a tropical holiday for Australian fans, and there were so many Australian fans. One of the Instagram guys I follow, Jake G. Kings, who goes around Perth and Sydney asking for people, do they know Virat Kohli, do they know Steve Smith, and everyone just ignores him. That funny guy, he was also there in Galle. I saw him. There was a on the fort, I think someone had kept a banner of Shane Warne stand. So it was like a tropical holiday for Australian fans after a stressful series which they won after being 1-0 down in Perth against India. It was like a tropical holiday, and they strolled through the series. I mean, that was a no contest. You know, like I said, like Australian batsmen kept on scoring big hundreds. Steve Smith scored two big hundreds. He was batting like a cyborg. Like nothing was escaping his CCTV like eyes, and he was batting so beautifully. One of the best things I liked about Steve Smith batting was like the way he flicks to the mid wicket. Those are so well timed, and he uses the feet so well. He almost converts it into a full toss. And that's where I thought that, Sri Lankan bowlers could have bowled a little bit faster, because Steve Smith was very comfortable in using his feet coming down the track and, hitting that to the mid wicket. He was actually cocking his wrist and hitting the balls, cover driving the balls. So, Sri Lankan bowlers could have bowled a little bit faster, which I thought Mathew Kuhnemann was doing. He was bowling much faster, was making it difficult for giving less time to the Sri Lankan batsman to actually react to his balls. But overall, man, what a fantastic. And as a Sri Lankan fan, I'll say that, Sri Lankan fans who are watching this, you should not feel disappointed, because I think Sri Lanka lacked a motive. There was nothing for them in this series. Even if they would have won this, people would have called it, oh, it's just a win at home on turning tracks. But, there was no motive. Whereas Australia, you would say that they also had no motive. They had already qualified for the World Test Championship final. But I was just listening to Nathan Lyon speak, and he was obviously praising Mathew Kuhnemann, who he thought deserves more chances. He's not getting those chances because, of course, they're playing in Australia, where Nathan Lyon himself is not required as much. So, he was just speaking, and he's saying that we are on the journey to become a great Australian team. Despite having won every bilateral series, they have won the World Cup, they've won the WTC, they still think there's a lot to improve on. And this shows that, like, they have just won a hard fought series versus India at home. They went to Dubai, they practiced for 5 days straight without a break. They practiced on turning tracks, they put some materials there to make it look like Sri Lankan like conditions. Some surgeon did some magic work on Mathew Kuhnemann because he had a fractured left thumb, and he also became fit there. They didn't come and play any practice matches in Sri Lanka, but they came so prepared with those net sessions in Dubai, and they came with clear game plans. And that's what Nathan Lyon was saying, that we are on a journey to become a great side, one of the great Australian sides. So their benchmark is obviously very high. They are comparing themselves with the teams of the 90s and 2000s, which were led by Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting. So obviously, this is incredible. They had such strong ambitions to win in Sri Lanka. This is where Nathan Lyon actually made his debut, and this time he was not even the main guy. I mean, he had to be the main guy, but Mathew Kuhnemann didn't allow him to take even one five for the man who is known for taking fifer in every test playing nation. Didn't take a fifer in this series, which was supporting the spinners, because Mathew Kuhnemann absolutely outshone him in this. Even though I still feel that Mathew Kuhnemann took a lot of tail end wickets, but still, I mean, Nathan Lyon was too good, and even Mathew Kuhnemann was too good. Nathan Lyon actually dismissed Dinesh Chandimal twice in a session, who was, I think, Sri Lanka's best batsman along with Kusal Mendis. And Kamindu Mendis, again, this series, I was hoping that he will again get his average back after disappointing kind of tour of South Africa. Now, this has been even more disappointing, especially with some of the short selections. Mathew Kuhnemann, till he took the wicket of Kamindu Mendis in the first test, he was getting hammered by the left-handers. He was getting absolutely hammered by the left-handers. It seemed he was only going to bowl against the right-handers, but there was a useless slog played by Kamindu Mendis, and he gets caught, and Mathew Kuhnemann suddenly picked the left-hander. Then he again picked Nishan Perez in the same way two times, and he became effective versus left-handers too after that dismissal. But his average has now dipped from 92 to 62, and this has been a big fall. We were all so happy when Kamindu Mendes was averaging 100, and he was absolutely shining, making 1,000 runs after 13 innings. But there has been a dip, and Sri Lankan batsmen, they took this series a bit casually, which Australian batsmen didn't. And of course, Australian batsman, I think Alex Carey also got inspired by Josh Inglis scoring 100, because Josh Inglis has been the second wicket keeper in the test squad for the longest time. He was actually a squad member of the WTC winning squad. He didn't get a debut there. I mean, he didn't get a debut in that WTC cycle itself, but he was part of the WTC final squad. And then he finally gets a debut, scores 100, and everyone is making fun of his name being English, even the Aussie boys. And then something fires up in Alex Carey. He goes out and he scores a brilliant 100. And yeah, man. I mean, Australia just needed to bat once in both the Test matches. That was kind of the way the dominance was there. Even Travis Head could go and play his shots. He also scored a 50. The only batsman who struggled again was Marnus Labuschagne. He will have some consolation that, okay, I hit the winning runs when we won the series. But he's been struggling. And amazing performance. I mean, Beau Webster, I thought he also played well. Australia was the team that was known for collapses, especially on turning tracks, and even at their home then. And in England, they are known for batting collapses. But somehow there has been that one partnership. And Steve Smith. Look at Steve Smith, where he was. You know, before, like, he was getting promoted to as an opener. He was being thrown out there and here, and now he's come back to that number four positions. He's got 200s versus India, 200s versus Sri Lanka. Suddenly he's on 3600s from 3200s out of nowhere, and he's again claiming back to be one of the best batters after everyone had counted him out and told that Joe Root is obviously the best batter. And we were all hearing stories like Joe Root is going to catch up to Sachin. Now, what do you say? Like 210 innings, he's made 3600s. That's one of the second quickest after Ricky Ponting to reach 3600s. He's made 4 tons in Sri Lanka. He has been the batter with most number of runs in Asian conditions. He has got the most number of hundreds in Asian conditions. So he's been amazing. And also the way they played, the way they have behaved under Steve Smith. It's a stark contrast to how the team used to behave during his captaincy days. That infamous sandpaper incident. They gave that tribute to Dimut Karunaratne, who was a Sri Lankan legend, and I think it was a very fitting tribute to him. They all clapped him when he went out. So the series was played very fairly, and it was not an enjoyable series because it was not a competitive series. It would have added a lot of spice if Sri Lanka had something to gain in this, and they would have probably had a WTC. If that would have happened, if Australia had drawn in Sydney, or if there was a draw in Sydney, that would have happened. That Sri Lanka would have had a chance in the series to make to the WTC finals if they make it 2-0. But I think also the messaging from some of the Sri Lankan coaches must have been wrong. They would have told play fire with fire because Nathan Lyon and Mathew Kuhnemann are going to bowl at the same spot. So just go for your shots. The ball is not going to turn much. And now suddenly they are thinking whether we should play on turning tracks at all. This is the same question that every Indian fan is asking because India themselves lost a series to New Zealand, who actually Sri Lanka beat 2-0. And now Sri Lanka have lost to Australia. And this is the funny sequence of events that's going on. But yeah, let's hope Sri Lankan cricket is back big. And of course, I mean, Test cricket, they need to be a little more patient. I think they are playing too many shots, especially Dhananjaya and Kamindu. They are very good batters. They should just need to be patient a little bit. And there, I think there is a need of a good spin bowling all rounder, which they are missing. Obviously, they have Ramesh Mendis, who was called for the second test. But I still feel that the tail also needed to show some more fight. They just kept going for their shots like Van der Say and Lahiru Kumara. They just needed to fight a bit, which I felt no one tried to even hang on there. So they were in a hurry to go home, it seemed. But yeah, man, Pathum Nisanka, I liked him the way he drove Stark. That was the moment that Sri Lankan fans would really like. The way he played Stark was much better than how Oshada Fernando played Stark. And yeah, and finally, Dimut Karnaratne, I was listening to his interview. He said that he always looked up to the stats of Dean Elgar or Alistair Cook and wanted to compete with them. He was such a good cricket nerd, and I hope when he leaves this team, he will impart some of his, uh, brain to the entire Sri Lankan, the knowledge to Sri Lankan team. And wow, man, Steve Smith. Without Pat Cummins, without Hazelwood, his captaincy was enough. This bowling attack was enough. Bo Webster bowling some off spin. Whatever Steve Smith wanted happened. Travis Head takes Kamindu Mendis, puts his fingers in the eyes. So whatever Steve Smith wanted actually happened here. So now I'm looking forward to the WTC finals. And like the Australian fans put up a banner, like Goldberg in WWE, he used to say that you're next. So they just put up South Africa, you're next. And this is going to be an interesting WTC final. Of course, Pat Cummins and Josh Hazelwood are even sacrificing their Champions Trophy ambitions because I think WTC is the main thing for them. So it's going to be very interesting. And let's see what happens in Sri Lanka's cricket future also. How they take up in 2025-27 cycle. Will the test matches be distributed more to Palagele, more to SSC, P. Sara Oval? Because it's becoming one-dimensional playing all the test matches in Galle. And the pitches, they need to have more variety because I think Asita Fernando is a good bowler. Lahiru Kumara is a good bowler. They should also be given their due and playing on some grassy tracks, on some mountains in Sri Lanka that really help their pace. So thank you guys for watching this channel and supporting us. And please do subscribe our channel, Cricket Caviar. Thank you.